I woke up pretty early today, 2 a.m. California time. So I'm hoping I can do well here with timing, but I have a lot to cover. Mostly I'm going to do therapeutics, or actually diagnostics. Um, yeah, I'm a little bit slow today. Um, okay, let's get started. So here's a slide that shows that longevity science has advanced quickly over the past years, with around 500,000 papers over the past 2 decades. Um, but the amount of startups that are the consequence of this research is very, very small. So we're counting based on agingbiotech.info, and this is Carl Fleger, who's here in the audience, and he's going to give a talk later, around 250 startups with only 50 million, most of them in funding, so not very encouraging. And why is that? I think the issue here is that scientists have no clue how to translate their findings into entrepreneurial and commercial endeavors and bring this to the marketplace. We need more education, more training in entrepreneurship. Imagine that on average, you need 30,000 papers for one startup to be formed. So see the numbers. Money from NIH that comes to research organizations is massive, and we're collaborating. We're contributing to this money, right? So we're paying tax on that. Imagine that you need around 100K for one paper to be published on average. That would translate into $3 billion from NIH for one startup to be formed. That's not sustainable. That's completely inefficient. We definitely need more training of academics and scientists in the entrepreneurial side of things. That doesn't make any sense to me. We started the 1,000 Immunomes project in the academia to reinvent human immunology and go from mouse to more human cohorts. From that, we collected around 50 million data points with $70 million from NIH funding. We're publishing a lot of papers, around 50 publications. One of those is this idea of how can we measure inflammation, which is really not the same as acute inflammation. This is age-related inflammation. This is happening as we age very slowly. Probably all of you know this concept. We got a paper out, two papers that were published exactly on the problem of chronic inflammation in the etiology of disease across the lifespan. So can we measure it effectively? Not really, right? There's no canonical correlates or inflammatory markers out there that are reliable for systemic chronic inflammation. So we came up with a solution with the 1,000 Immunomes project. We've been analyzing the data over the years. We put a deep learning method to publish a paper that was accepted in Nature Aging in 2021. And from there, we brought it to fruition. We brought it to the marketplace. So we raised around $20 million from VC funding, kind of very standard Silicon Valley type of approach. And with that, we created Edifice Health. That's the first startup I started probably 5 years ago. And now we're launching a test for systemic chronic inflammation. We run a clinical trial of 1,000 people. That's a therapeutics aspect that I have no time to cover today. So this is the customer journey and this physician journey. We're basically ordering online and have this very standard way of analyzing biological aging, in this case, inflammatory aging. We have a bunch of core IP and pipeline. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and tell you about research I've been doing with NASA. So 4 years ago, the Human Research Program in Houston reached out to us. Susie Sanello, who passed away a few years back of a terminal pancreatic cancer, asked me to she wanted to pass the torch and asked me to collaborate on this thing to save the millions of dollars we're putting in an astronaut health, because they're getting sicker than a normal person on Earth. And they suffer from sensory motor derangements, cardiovascular risk, and risk of cancer, and so on and so forth. We published 5 papers that they came all at once in the Nature package last year in 2024, June in 2024. And we are now working on this review paper where we focus solely on the relationship of space and aging. How much of the aging on Earth can be accelerated in space? It's about 40-fold, so it's massive. We envision a way to simulate microgravity, so the effect of space on Earth. And these are 2 instruments that are called ground analogs of microgravity that can accelerate the aging. All this is very researchy. We've been, putting organoids there and blood and got beautiful results to develop a model for disease, cardiomyopathy, Parkinson's disease, and immune aging. Those are the first 3 indications. And I thought, this is great. Let's bring it to the marketplace. Okay. And so how difficult it is to raise money for a drug discovery company. Very difficult. So I started to think how much money I need for this thing. And then, 1 million. Oh, wow. Okay. 3 million to start as validation. And then more money and more money and more money. In 1 year, I raised 300K. Terrible. It's really hard to raise money for drug development and discovery, especially if you're using a very disruptive tech as we're doing here. But we pivoted. We know that people want to live longer and spending a bunch of money for this thing. But what is good for you? What's good for each individual? We have no idea. Why spending millions of dollars, like my friend Brian, in 100 pill regime, if you don't know what works, right? And so it's kind of a roulette. But what we did is take blood from the same individual that was profiled 3 years apart. We run the blood at baseline in microgravity and resembled the older blood. But there's a lot of variability. The aging effect is different for every one person in this room. I could suffer from inflammation. Some others may suffer from other things. And so the correlation was huge. We created Beyond Age. Okay, this is a window for the future of your health. We have 3 tiers. It's a very luxury product. This is the report, and then our commercial pipeline. Thank you so much. Woo. All right.
We have time for a question, comments.
Yeah, I'm expecting a bunch of questions. Yeah.
So, with Beyond Age, how does the preview as to how someone's going to age impact their treatment? What kind of recommendations are?
Yeah, beautiful question. For each one of the hallmarks of aging, or pillars of aging, we call them, there are a number of recommendations that go from nutraceuticals to exercise. So there are specific exercise recommendations that are based on a big NIH a repository of data. It's called MotorPack, where they put different people and different mice in different exercise regimes, and they change their levels of gene expression. And so if you have the genes that change, say with cardio or zone 2 or high intensity training, that's the one I'm going to recommend for you. We're also trying to to kind of wrap up that loop and produce our own therapeutics, but that's down the road.